And again, thank you for those of you who have come in who have not gotten a chance to greet yet. Thank you so much for being here tonight and addressing these most pertinent issues among us. So we can clearly see the problem, but what is the solution? Because we don't need to be here just talking about the problems. We see that we have a lot of problems in our community. And trust me, again, this is not comprehensive. I am no expert in all things, but what the Most High has been laying on my heart, this serious issue is dealing with the moral fabric of the Israelite community, of the Black community as a whole, that we have to deal with this moral degeneracy. So let's take a look in 1619. That's when was officially recorded that our ancestors were brought over here on slave ships via the transatlantic slave trade to be chattel slaves, to be treated like animals. From there, we jump into the 1800s during the Underground Railroad. This was when our forefathers and foremothers jumped in and they said, listen, no more. I can't take this bondage anymore. I've got to get free. And they worked together along with believing Gentiles who aided them in the trek to freedom from the plantation to what they called, in their own language, the promised land. They always had a desire for the promised land. They just didn't know, because it was beaten out of them, the truth of who they were. They didn't know who they were, all of them. Some of them did, but they knew they had a hunger for the Most High. That's why they sang songs like Kumbaya, just trying to grasp a piece and a portion of who they once were. But freedom was ringing on the inside of them. And so they did what it took in order to get free from the plantation, and it became known as the Underground Railroad. Well, because of that, from the early 1800s to just 63 years later, see, it didn't take a whole long time, working together, unifying for a specific purpose, freedom. Didn't take a whole long bit of time, just 60 years in, and the Emancipation Proclamation gets passed. Chattel slavery is now no longer allowed in the United States. Of course, we know that there was a Civil War, and it did 2 years later, till June 19th, 1965, my oldest son's birthday, what we today call Juneteenth, for the recognition of many slaves who were still on the plantations in the South to even know that they had been set free. But this was signed into the records, Emancipation Proclamation by President Lincoln, for our people to not have to be on these plantations any longer as slaves. 1960s, let's jump 100 years. We know that between 1863 and 1960, the Black Codes, we know there was lynching and the first terrorist attack in the US by way of Black Wall Street, all took place between 1863 and the 1960s. We are fully aware of that. That is what brought us to the place in the 1960s where we say, okay, we have to gather, we have to come together as a people, we have to fight for our freedom. Fighting so that we can be treated as equals in a system that we're actually prisoners of war. But that's what our people did. They fought. They came together and said, no, we must be treated with equality. Now we're some 60 years later, 2024, present day. But what are we doing still? We're still fighting for that same equality. Yes, there have been laws that have been changed. Things have been shifting a little bit here and there. But if you look at a present day, what do we have? We have all Black love matters. So we go from all Black life matters, now we all Black love matters. And what do we see again? We see the perversion of this most holy arc, if you will, this rainbow being perverted. You see, they're not out here saying all Black lives matter in the sense that the babies who have been aborted, they're not talking about them. They're talking about the ability to go out and be degenerate and to be sexually deviant against the Most High and say, we're fighting for our equality too. You see, this system has done a number on us. It has done an absolute number on us because everything, like I said the other day, that the Most High told us not to do, that he didn't want us to be known for is everything that we're known for. And we need to think on that. That we as a people, everything that we are known for today is exactly what he told us not to do. That is a huge issue. It is a reversal of the order. That's why we have to fight back. I want y'all to notice something. You see a pattern in our history? It's a pattern. The pattern is that our story has always been the rise or fall of us as a nation, not individuals, but as a nation. Levi, Simeon, Reuben, Judah, Joseph, Benjamin, Gad, Asher, Zebulun, Dan, Naphtali, Issachar. When we look at it in the book of Revelation, Dan is actually removed because of how wicked Dan was, and he is replaced with Joseph's son, Manasseh. He's replaced. But it was still oneness as a nation. Our story is the same. Let's look back here. We have, okay, it won't let me go back there. But I just showed you when it came to the timeline, when it was our people in 1619, we were carted together. Our people during chattel slavery, together. When it came to the Underground Railroad, we had to work together. When it came to civil rights movement, together. We are always judged together. We're always either going to rise or fall together. Let's look at these passages in scripture. Leviticus 22, verse 33. You, however, I will scatter among the nations and will draw out a sword after you as your land becomes desolate and your cities become waste. Together. Deuteronomy 4:27. Yahuwah will scatter you among the peoples, and you will be left few in number among the nations where Yahuwah drives you. Together. Psalm 106:27. And that he would cast their seed among the nations and scatter them in the lands. Together. Jeremiah 19:16. I will scatter them among the nations whom neither they nor their fathers have known, and I will send the sword after them until I have annihilated them. Together. Only a remnant will be left of us in all the nations. He judges us together. We really need to think on this. This is us, y'all. We are yoked together like two ox. What one does affects the other. Look at this ox right here on the left. You see this ox over here trying to turn the other direction while this ox over here is steady, firm. They're going in this one direction. But this ox over here, no. This ox says, I want to go to the right. This one say, no, we stand straight. If this ox decides it wants to rebel and go to the right, and this one wants to stay straight, what happens? Neither one of them going anywhere. They ain't going nowhere. Why? Because they are yoked together. All progress stops because the ox on the left and the ox on the right both need each other. They got to work in the same mission. They got to work towards the same goals. Because if they refuse to do so, they will go nowhere. Let's look at what the scripture says in Joshua. Yahuwah said to Joshua, get up. Why have you fallen on your face? Israel has sinned. They have transgressed my covenant that I commanded them. They have taken some of the devoted things. They have stolen and lied and put them among their own belongings. Therefore, the people of Israel cannot stand before their enemies. They turn their backs before their enemies because they have become devoted for destruction. Devoted for destruction. That's what he tell you back in your enemies because you're devoted for destruction. I will be with you no more unless you destroy the devoted things from among you. Get up, consecrate the people and say, consecrate yourselves for tomorrow. For thus says Yahuwah, Elohim of Israel. There are devoted things in your midst, O Israel. You cannot stand before your enemies until you take away the devoted things from among you. We can't stand against our enemies until we take away the devoted things from among us together. Joshua was on the mission. He was ready to fight in the battle. He sent out men to fight in the battle and win, and the men got their behinds handed to them. And he goes, what is going on here? And he's crying out to the Most High, why are we being defeated before our enemies? The Most High said, get up. Israel has sinned. Because Israel sinned, they transgressed my covenants. They doing the things I told them not to do. They taking the devoted objects. They stolen, they lied. They put them among their own belongings. And you think I'm going to let you win before your enemies when you have those among you in your camp that are treacherous? No. That's not how it works. Yahuwah is married to the backslider. He's married to the backslider. What does that mean, he's married to the backslider? I'm going to read from Jeremiah 3. And I want y'all to just be patient with me as I read, because I'm going to read the chapter, but it's important that we hear the chapter and understand what the Most High is saying to us. Jeremiah chapter 3 says, they say, if a man put away his wife, and she goes from him and becomes another man's, shall he return unto her again? Shall not that land be greatly polluted? But thou hast played the harlot with many lovers, yet return again to me, saith Yahuwah. Lift up thine eyes unto the high places, and see where thou hast not been lean with. In the ways hast thou sat for them, as the Arabian in the wilderness, and thou hast polluted the land with thy whoredoms and with thy wickedness. Therefore the showers have been withholden, and there have been no latter rain, and thou hast a whore's forehead, thou refusest to be ashamed. Wilt thou not from this time cry unto me? My father, thou art the God of my youth. Will he reserve his anger forever? Will he keep it to the end? Behold, thou hast spoken and done evil things, as thou couldest. Yahuwah said also unto me in the days of Josiah the king, hast thou seen which backsliding Israel has done? She has gone up among every high mountain and under every green tree, and there hath played the harlot. And I said after she had done all these things, turn thou unto me. But she returned not, and her treacherous sister Judah saw it. And I said, when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot also. And it came to pass through the lightness of her whoredom that she defiled the land and committed adultery with stones and with stocks. And yet for all this, her treacherous sister Judah had not turned unto me with her whole heart, but feignedly, saith Yahuwah. She ain't turned with her whole heart, but feignedly. And Yahuwah said unto me, the backsliding Israel had justified herself more than treacherous Judah. Go and proclaim these words toward the north, and say, return thou backsliding Israel, saith Yahuwah, and I will not cause mine anger to fall upon you. For I am merciful, saith Yahuwah, and I will not keep anger forever. See, he's telling her, listen, y'all are so hard-headed. My goodness. But I'm married to the backslider. I'm going to be merciful with you. I'm not going to be angry with you. Just come on and let's get this thing right. He says in verse 13, only acknowledge thine iniquity, that thou hast transgressed against Yahuwah thy Elohim, and hast scattered thy ways to the strangers under every green tree, and ye have not obeyed my voice, saith Yahuwah. Turn, O backsliding children, saith Yahuwah, for I am married unto you, and I will take you, one of a city and two of a family, and I will bring you to Zion, and I will give you pastors according to mine heart, which shall feed you with knowledge and understanding. And it shall come to pass when ye be multiplied and increase in the land, in those days, saith Yahuwah, they shall say no more, the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah, neither shall it come to mind, neither shall they remember it, neither shall they visit it, neither shall that be done anymore. At the time they shall call Jerusalem the throne of Yahuwah, and all the nations shall be gathered unto it, to the name of Yahuwah, to Jerusalem. Neither shall they walk any more after the imagination of their evil heart. In those days, the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel, and they shall come together out of the land of the north to the land that I have given for an inheritance unto your fathers. But I said, how shall I put thee among the children and give thee a pleasant land, a goodly heritage of the host of nations? And I said, thou shalt call me my father and shall not turn away from me. Surely as a wife treacherously departs from her husband, so have you dealt treacherously with me, O house of Israel, saith Yahuwah. A voice was heard upon the high places, weeping and supplication of the children of Israel, for they have perverted their way, and they have forgotten Yahuwah their Elohim. Return, ye backsliding children, and I will heal your backslidings. Behold, we come unto thee, for thou art Yahuwah our Elohim. Truly in vain is salvation hoped for from the hills and from the multitude of mountains. Truly in Yahuwah Elohim is the salvation of Israel. For shame have devoured the labor of our fathers from our youth, their flocks and their herds, their sons and their daughters. We lie down in our shame, and our confusion covers us. For we have sinned against Yahuwah our Elohim, we and our fathers from our youth, even unto this day, and have not obeyed the voice of Yahuwah our Elohim. This sounds very much like what our people are going through today. Backsliding, backstabbing, doing whatever we're big and bad and bold enough to do, doing like the other nations around us while at the same time hollering about how we can't stand our oppression, but we're doing everything that they're doing. We want so bad as a collective, as a community, a whole community, to be accepted by the other nations still to this day, and that's why we do the things that we do. Just like the woman who's on the video as a video vixen. We've been mistreated, we have been molested, we have been tormented, and yet we go back to the very things that caused us trauma in the first place. He's saying turn from that. Turn from your backsliding ways. Just acknowledge your iniquity. Acknowledge it, and I will heal your backsliding. So what do we got to do? We're talking solution here. Operating as one. We have to operate as one. What does that look like, operating as one? We know that there are so many people in the Black community that want nothing to do with unification. You'll hear terms like, we're not all a monolith. I get that. We have individual personalities. We have different levels of education and experience. But the truth of the matter is that all of us want the same thing. We all want freedom. We all want to be able to be free to have what belongs to us, which is to not be oppressed anymore. So we can all agree on that. But when it comes to how that is mapped out, it's like everybody's like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to work with this person. I want to work with that person. And we can't work with everybody because some people say they want freedom, but they'll do it by any means necessary, even if that means worshiping the devil to get it, which they become exactly what they didn't want to become. They become an even greater bondage. They're just too ignorant to know. So let's talk practicality. Because oftentimes when we're talking about things from a spiritual standpoint, we all think that we get it. And there are things that we do get, and the Most High does deal with our hearts, but there's still things that we have to do within our actions that shows our faith. So let's talk these actionable steps. For one, we need to think before we act. We need to think before we act. We don't need to be making decisions without forethought. That's in how we respond, especially to people who have offended us. I don't know about y'all, but I don't like people talking stupidness to me. I don't like people talking nonsense to me. Because if you talking crazy to me, I want to clap back. You know what I'm saying? It's, to me, I feel like it's in most of our DNA to be the clapback king and queens. You say some craziness to me, I want to handle that. I give you a perfect example. The other day, my husband and I, we were going to the grocery store. And you know, like when you're waiting for somebody to get out of the parking space and so you can pull in. So we're waiting for these people to get out of the space that we wanted to go in. They reverse out, and as soon as they reverse out, we try to reverse in. But then this other car comes, and they were on the opposite side, so they see that there's 2 spaces open now, and so they don't want to have to reverse out. They say, let me pull in, so all I got to do is pull out. But our car was right there waiting. And so we're like, they could clearly see that we were waiting for the space, but they decided, I don't care. So I'm like, hey, just saying, like trying to get the lady's attention. Now, the lady comes out of the car. She starts to get her children, who are teenagers, out of the back seat. I said, excuse me, we were getting ready. The woman turns to me and she says, no habla inglés. I said, okay, no habla inglés, entiende inglés, entiende, okay? Which means, do you understand English? You don't speak English, but do you understand it? Okay, so she's like, I don't care. And she walks off, okay? This is a Afro-Latino sister, a Latina. So she goes in the store and I'm livid. I'm like, oh. So my husband's like, don't even worry about it. There's another space right there. Let's just park in that space. But you know, on the inside, I felt disrespected. I felt like, how you just gonna take my space and then play stupid with me? So I sat in the car. I was like, I was already not gonna go in the store. So he went out and got a store, and then he called me up a few minutes later. He's like, babe, can you bring the card? I had the card. So I was like, all right, I gotta go in the store. He's like, yeah, I ran into your friend, by the way, and she was speaking perfect English. And so I get in the store, and who do I see as soon as I get in the store? I see her. She's walking toward me. I'm walking toward her. She turns to somebody and starts speaking English. And of course, you know, because I'm still trying to grow, I'm still working. I didn't go out and confront her. I just kept walking while my husband was on the phone. And I said, you have beautiful English. And I just kept walking. I'm just keeping it 100 with y'all, okay? I could have responded a different way. I could have not said nothing at all. But there was a part of me that was like, I just got to get the last word on this. Well, listen, y'all, like I said, it is a trial. It is a test. When people are trying you, you may want to escalate. But what we have to learn how to do, and that includes me, is to de-escalate, to think before we act. Why do I say that? Because let's say the situation had gone a different way with me and her. Let's say she was about that life. Well, the truth is, I'm not about that life. You know why? Because I got a husband and 10 children. So I am about this life. I'm about making sure that I can come home and take care of my family. This is what I'm talking about thinking before we act. We have to think about what we have to lose. We have to think about the gains that we'll make when we learn how to think before we act and not allow someone's negativity or somebody's tempting us to take us out of the place where we are walking righteously. We know that we're living in a matrix, if you will. We know that the majority of the people around us that we are trying to wake up among our people, they love their sleep. So we have to learn how to be patient and peaceable with people who oppose themselves. Deal gently with them. I'm learning. I get it right sometimes. Sometimes I get it wrong. But let's think before we act. The next thing, we need to be faithful in our marriages. Now let's talk about this for a minute, okay? Not everybody's married. And I get that. Some people are divorced. Some people have not been married yet. Some people are widowed. But when we talk about how we're supposed to conduct ourselves as sexual beings, that is something that needs a whole panel discussion for 2 weeks, if not more. When it comes to how we represent ourselves in society, we need to think about what it is that we're doing and communicating with our bodies, with our body language, with our thoughts, and with our actions. Men and women, we need to learn self-control. You can control yourself. If you are born of the Spirit, it is a part of the fruit of the Spirit is self-control. Just because you see somebody that is fine, just because you see somebody that is your type, just because you see something that you want, don't mean you need to get it. You don't need to get it. Why? Because the Most High does not want us polluting ourselves with sexual immorality. You are changing, let's keep it a buck. You are changing fluids with one person to the next. You are exchanging this bodily fluid with this person, becoming one. And the Most High says, will you become one with a harlot? But that's what happens with our people because of attraction, because, oh, he looked good. She looked good. I gotta have that. And then when you got it, and most men will say this, once they have it, they're disgusted. They wanted it so bad before, and the minute that they get it, they done. They ready to put their clothes on and be out the door. That should tell you that it's a spirit of lust, and there's nothing of Yahuwah in it. But when you are walking in integrity in your body, when you're not an abuser of yourself, when you temper yourself, when you say, you know what, I know that this person over here, I'm highly attracted to, but they are not my spouse. I'm married, or I have not gone down that direction to even have a conversation to see if this person is marriage material. If you can temper your body, the Most High will bless you. He will bless you because of that. He will actually give you something greater. Maybe you wanted a particular type of a spouse that you are not married to. He will give you that spouse if you temper yourself. But if you are so impatient and you're burning with so much lust, then he can't help you. He can't help you because you are determined to go your own way, and you will face the consequences for it in your body. You think it's just dealing with sexually transmitted diseases? It is not. It is dealing with cancer. It is dealing with heart disease. It is dealing with hypertension, high blood pressure, anxiety. It's dealing with all those things when you put yourself in alignment with somebody who you're not married to. Now, when you're married and you have made covenant and you go out there and you cheat on your spouse, it's even worse. It's worse because you've made a covenant before the Most High. You made a covenant with that person and you're shattering them. You're shattering their soul. I want everyone to think about when you make a decision based on your feelings and your lust, what will the consequences be? Whose family are you breaking up? We need to think before we act. Whose family are you breaking up? What happy home are you breaking up? And that's what us as a people, that's one of our biggest issues. It's a lack of self-control. Just because you see something that you like, don't mean that you have to go after it. You can temper yourself. That's what the Apostle Paul said you got to do. You got to bring your body, your flesh under subjection. And the day we can start learning how to do that, we're going to see a whole different atmosphere in our homes, because the women aren't going to be worried about the cheating husbands, and the men aren't going to be worried about the cheating wives. Why? Because they honor their covenant. Let's move on to another actionable step: teaching our children and grandchildren. I showed y'all before about how even the mothers and the children would be slaughtered. Why? Because what are they being taught? We're supposed to be teaching righteous things to our children. The way we live our lives, we're supposed to be teaching them and instructing them before they even go to school. If they go to school, these are the things that we're supposed to be pouring as parents into our children. See, we talk about, our culture that, we don't let our children go out of the house looking any kind of way. And our children know that when they get in the grocery store, they ain't gonna act a fool. And those are great things. But we have so much more to teach than just those things. We have to teach our children what it means to value themselves, what it means to be moral before the Most High and moral before man. We have to teach our children what that looks like by the way we carry ourselves. If our children see us in lust, do you think that our children are not going to grow up in lust? I'm telling you, the reality is that what our children see is what they're going to do. If our children see a father and a mother that are committed in holy matrimony, that are working together, that are working towards a plan and a progressing in that plan, that's what they're going to want to do. If our children are parents that are not respecting themselves or respecting one another, if our children see that, then guess what? They're going to do what everybody else is doing too. They're going to do what everybody else is doing too, because they're like little sponges. Now, here's another thing. We do need to patronize our businesses, the businesses of integrity. We need to support those businesses. If we are not supporting ourselves, we cannot sit there and complain about how it is that we have no money as a community. We don't have money as a community if after less than 3 hours, I believe it is, that our money leaves the hands of our community and goes into another, whether it's the Arab community, the Caucasian community, the Asian community, it's going into everybody else's hands except ours, because we're not patronizing our businesses. We're not supporting our businesses, and that's a problem. Collectively, we should be trying to support as many businesses that are brew-based businesses as possible. Now, granted, we don't have gas stations and grocery stores, unfortunately, not big box ones, of course, but where we can support, what we can do, whether it's buying hair products from someone that looks like us, whether it's buying gifts from someone that looks like us, getting contractors that look like us, doing what we can do to put the hands of our money in our people. Just today, I was getting ready to hire these young boys who were trying to build up their bike business. We got a bike out front and they were saying, hey, we can look at that bike and help you fix it. Now they was trying to be shady. So I told them, I said, I'm a businesswoman. Don't be shady with me because you ain't gonna play me. But at the end of the day, I have to teach these young people. Don't try to come against your own people when we're trying to support. Don't be shady. If you're a business owner, be a business owner with integrity. And then that way you will be able to win the trust of those in our community to support you. Do it right. Do it right. Don't do no half-stepping. Now I want to talk about accountability steps. I want to be honest with you. You will not be able to get your highest sense of self and what you were called to do on this earth unless you have someone holding you accountable to it. We all need accountability partners. So what that looks like is being teachable. We need to be teachable. Now, when I say teachable, you might automatically think I'm talking about, oh, let me see who I can learn the Bible from. Being teachable in that regard. I'm not talking about just how you understand the scriptures. I'm talking about in every area of deficiency in your life. You need to be teachable. You need to take stock of the areas in your life where there is void, where there is confusion, where there is not order. And that is the area which you need instruction in. So if it's financial, you need to be instructed by financial educators. There's plenty of Black, very intelligent financial educators on YouTube alone that you can find yourself in the company of and growing in the knowledge and wisdom that they can provide and help you with financial literacy. Okay? If it's how to become a better father, how to become a better mother, those things are important. But how often do we take time to find out how do we become better in these areas? There's all kinds of people out here that are offering tools and education to help us in the areas where we need help. Why? Because the truth is that many of us don't know how to be good parents because we were never shown what being good parents looks like. We have abandonment issues, abuse issues. We have issues where we were not provided for properly. So in order for us to get it right, we need to be able to be led by someone who has the tools to help us get it right. And personal development. You know, I do Brew Talk, personal development coaching. And one of the things that is so important with personal development is understanding that until you are changed from the inside, that your outside will not change. You have to deal with your issues, your personal traumas, your personal hangups, your personal lack of discipline. And so when it comes to me and my clients, I'm very rigorous. It's like boot camp. It's not a way in which I don't relate to or understand what a person is going through, because I do, but that's a part of the accountability, is making sure that when you're under Brew Talk and you're building up your personal development, that you are doing the work. If you're not going to do the work, then you're wasting your money. But if you're going to do the work, then you're going to see change over time. So be teachable. All right, the next one is a practical accountability steps. One of the things that men say, I hear them all the time in the culture, is say that accountability is like kryptonite to women. They'll say that. I've heard it so many times. Accountability is like kryptonite to a woman. Well, I can tell you personally that for years, it was very difficult for me to apologize, because in my mind, I was right all the time. Now, would I have told my husband at the time that I thought I was right all the time? No, of course not. Would he tell me that I think I'm right all the time? Of course he would. But it took a humility and maturity on the inside that Yahuwah had to give me for me to realize that my husband is just as human as I am. And that means that he has strengths just like I have strengths, and he has weaknesses just like I have weaknesses. And if he was offended by something that I said, that I cannot sit there and justify what I've said, I need to humble myself and apologize. But are we doing that collectively? Are we busy offending one another, but not apologizing to one another? The same thing with the men, because I believe that accountability is like kryptonite to both men and women. I believe that men have just a harder time as apologizing with sincerity. With sincerity, not just saying, oh, I'm sorry so we can get over with. I'm talking about sincerely apologizing, turning away from the behavior that you did that is an offense to your spouse. We need to work on that. These are actionable, accountable steps that if we can work on these things, then we are looking more like our Father in heaven and less like the degenerate society around us, because we're walking in humility. So the next thing, we need to get healthy. We desperately need to get healthy. We are one of the most unhealthy group of people in the entire society. And we know that, of course, everything that I'm talking about has roots in the system of white supremacy that has been in erect for too long, way too long. This is a system that is coming down. And as the system is coming down, we need to understand the importance of us rising up. And how we rise up is in our spirits, in our bodies, and our souls. Our souls are mind, will, and emotions, but our bodies need that health. We need to be careful about what we're eating, and we need to be careful to pay attention to our bodies and how we're exercising, if we're exercising. Some people act like exercise is something that they can't do. But I can't exercise. Why can't you exercise? Because it's painful? Yes, it's painful. It hurts so good. It kills your flesh. You need to make exercise a part of your regimen, your lifestyle. Exercise should never be optional. Exercise, especially because it affects our health so much. Exercise should never be optional. It shouldn't. If we don't make exercise optional, but we make it a criteria for our life, we don't understand how much that will change the way we think. Exercise automatically clears the mind. It automatically does. So if you're dealing with brain fog, if you're frustrated all the time, and you find yourself snapping off of people, it's because you need to exercise. You also need to be careful about your vitamin intake. You may be vitamin deficient. There are things that you could be vitamin deficient in that are causing the brain fog, that are causing the cloudiness, that are causing you to snap off. You need to be aware of where you're at in your season of life. And if you're taking care of this vessel that the Most High has given you, all of this is about taking care of this vessel. When you're taking care of this, then you're flowing and looking more like your Father in heaven. You exercise and you start a series of exercise in your family. Just yesterday, I was exercising and my daughter said, Mom, can we exercise with you? I said, when I'm done, because I like to exercise by myself. But about an hour later, we went and we got our exercise on together as a family. Why? Because they saw me doing it and they in turn wanted to do it too. Exercise. I've had 10 children and I exercise. I could have been said, I just gonna let myself go because I done had a lot to cheer in. Okay, I could say that, but guess who I'm hurting? I'm hurting me and I'm hurting them too. Hurting my whole family because I won't have the energy to pour into them. All right, again, our finances. We need to get our finances in order. Many people in our community don't know clue one about how to do a proper budget. A proper budget will be done first with what's called a projected budget. A projected budget is what you project your income to be and your output to be. So what you are thinking that you're going to make and how much expenditures you think are going to have to come out of that. The best budget system I have found has been the zero-based budget system. You start with your monthly amount, you go down to your monthly bills, all of the other things that you have to supply money for, toiletries, clothes, gas, entertainment, all of those things miscellaneous till you reach $0. At the helm, you put in giving to start and savings. That's the start, giving and savings. I'm not going to tell you where to give. That's between you and the Most High, but you should give. You should give. And you should save to start. Pay yourself first. That's a projected budget. Your actualized budget will tell you exactly how much you actually made versus how much you actually spent. And if you do a monthly budget with a weekly meeting to make sure that you are staying in line with your finances, you will be surprised at how quickly your financial situation will turn around. When you don't have any clarity about the state of your flocks, you're going to be broke forever. But when you have clarity, all of a sudden, you're more cautious about how you spend money because you know that you've already assigned that money to go over here and you've assigned this money to go over there. So you're more cautious about it. Once you start seeing yourself being able to save and manage and be responsible, husbands and wives oftentimes have friction. Me and my husband had friction for many years when it came to finances, and we suffered for it. I'm telling you this as seriously because this is not something that I am saying you. I'm telling you that this is something that we had to learn to stop warring with one another about how it was going to be managed and learn how to work together. And working together, two are better than one, and a cord of three is not easily broken. When you bring the Most High in, He will begin to show you how to get these things right. So using systems, budgeting with a whiteboard, having your finances before you at all times, knowing the due dates, all of those things will help you to get your finances in order. These are about taking accountability steps in your own life. Take these accountability steps in your own life, and you're going to begin to see a change in your family, which will ultimately impact the next generation. I want y'all to understand that this is a process. We're moving from unhealthy, degenerate behavior to healthy behavior. It is a process. It will not change overnight, but with discipline, it will change over time. We could be as the king and queen that we're called to be in the nation of Yasharel when we understand the goal. We have to be people that are goal-oriented. If you are not goal-oriented, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. If you're not doing these things and you look at these practical things as though they don't matter and they won't change the culture, then the culture will not change. But if you understand that it takes both the spiritual and the practical and how you're conducting your life and your family, if you understand that, then you're going to see that the generation that's coming up behind you will be different. I'm telling you this from personal experience. From personal experience. My family was destroyed, absolutely destroyed. My father and mother, they never made it. They divorced. My father went to prison for 7 years. Our family was completely divided, broken, tortured, tormented, and just fragmented. That's the first time I moved to the Virgin Islands. I got to see how a functional home worked in my grandparents' home, and they learned how to make it work. And because they took the time to develop themselves in these areas, they built a beautiful home together in which they were able to house me and my sister in our time of need. But I remember walking down the street on my way to school one day and seeing this sign at the gas station that said, "The family that prays together stays together." And I knew that as a family, we never prayed together. And yet there we were, crushed, broken. We were a mess. Why were we a mess? Because we had no order in our life. We had no stability in our life. Everything was just coming at us from left and right. And we fell apart. But all praises to the Most High. That's not my children's legacy. That's not their story. You see, my husband and I are coming up on 19 years of marriage. All praises to the Most High. Faithfully married to one another with 10 children, one who's just finished up his first year in college on a full ride scholarship. All praises to the Most High. And the youngest, who is 1 year old, who's a toddler, getting into everything. Are we doing it perfectly? No. Are we trying to get better daily? Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. And I tell you the truth, that when you decide that you are going to climb this mountain and you are going to work together as one, the nation will shift, but it takes just a faithful few. It really doesn't take everybody. Look how many people are on this call tonight. 12, 13 of you in this call tonight. How many disciples, how many apostles did it take to turn the world upside down? It didn't take 1,000. It took 12. And one was a devil and he was replaced. But it didn't take a huge number. It only takes those who are willing to do what it takes, the work. And if you're willing to do the work, as tough as the work may be, if you're willing to do it, the Most High can and will bless us. He will take us out of the expectation of degeneracy, and upon us will be the expectation of dignity and divinity and excellence, because that's who we're called to be. So tonight I talked about, for those of you who did not get a chance to come in earlier, sponsors. What is this, how we're able to meet? How has this come about? Well, it comes about by the organizations, the projects that the Most High has laid on my heart to do. Brew Talk Personal Development Coaching. Brew Talk is so important because it helps you to deal with the fragmented issues in your life on an individual and group level. And I will circle back if I can to show you all what we have coming up with Brew Talk in the next month. It's a very important group coaching that I'm doing, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. Building Bridges 2.0 is what you're on right now. This is how we connect our members and our patrons every month. On the first Shabbat of every month, we connect and we just gather together as a family and we talk. And we're going to have room to talk tonight before we close out. But this is so that we can learn how to bridge the gap among the Hebrew community. It's a small group, but you are welcome to attend. I brought it and I opened it up for everybody tonight, but monthly we meet for members and for patrons. The 714 movement, if you're not familiar with it, is our prayer initiative that we do corporate prayer on the channel. And last year we did it a lot. This year I want to increase it, but I need help. If you want to be a part of the 714 movement as an official prayer intercessor, then I'd love for you to contact me at ashandaatlarge11@gmail.com. I'm looking for 5 prayer intercessors and 2 prayer coordinators, 2 that can help to coordinate our prayers so that we can continue to build up prayer on the channel. In Shalom Home Hebrew Lifestyle blog, we are developing this blog, which is going to be a hub for all things Hebrew related, whether it's geopolitical issues, whether it's finances, whether it's current events, whether it's health and wellness, personal development, child rearing, all of those things that affect our life. We are structuring the blog to do so. If you have not signed up for the newsletter so that you can be aware of when the actual launch date is, then please look in the chat. Ruamai has already posted both the Hebrew Lifestyle blog for the newsletter for you to sign up for. If you see where it says just finishing up or one more step or something along those lines, it's already hit your email. So just check your email and double opt in. The same thing for Brew Talk Personal Development Coaching. I want you to take a look at that as well. I'm going to circle back so you can see if you are interested in joining us for our group session. I'll circle back so you can see how. Finally, it is our divine future. Sorry you can't see the word future on the bottom of this, but this is our divine future. A life that is stable, that is mission-oriented, that is healthy, that is holistic. We can do it. We can change the trajectory of our culture, one person, one family at a time, so we can work together for the betterment of the entire community. So family lies and breaking ties. And say here, you are not crazy. Your family is. Have you ever found yourself struggling with the same tone, words, attitude as your mom or dad? You told yourself you'd never be distant towards your children, but you are. You promised you never yell at your wife like your dad did, but you just blew up. Now it's time for us to talk about it. So I want you to sign up for a Brew Talk meeting or meetup so that you can learn the keys to overcome negative patterns in your family line. This is a 2-hour session and the cost is $50 for you to attend. So if you're interested in being a part of this group session, then make sure that you sign up, look in the chat section for the link so that you could do so. I want to thank y'all so much for just being here tonight and engaging in this conversation that is so important and pertinent for us to as a community, so we can learn actionable steps so that we can go from an expectation of degeneracy to an expectation of divinity.